Look at the plate on the right. That meat looks green to you. It is not green. The hyena died this morning, and the meat is as fresh as the steak on the left. The green is yours. Your brain put it there before you finished looking. Why? Ancient humans ate anything with a pulse. Grubs, snails. Marrow scraped out of a cracked bone with a stick. They ate the lining of a stomach and the fat behind an eye. And they almost never ate predator meat. Not because a lion was too frightening to kill. We found the lion. In a pile of old bones, there are the toe bones of a cave lion, an animal bigger than anything alive today. On those toes, there are cut marks. Somebody sat down with a stone flake and worked the blade around each claw, one at a time, the way you peel a glove off a hand. That is not panic. That is a job. Hours of work, both hands, no hurry. Then he walked away from the meat, a Neanderthal in an ice age where hunger was the normal condition of being alive. 400 pounds of lion, and he took something else off the body. Remember that. We are coming back for it. The answer you have heard is taboo, culture. We simply do not do it. That explains nothing. This taboo turns up almost everywhere, which means the reason is older than the cultures sitting on top of it. Start with the arithmetic, because the arithmetic is brutal. Every time energy moves up one step of the food chain, roughly 9/10 of it burns off. Grass into deer, deer into lion. So a lion is a receipt, a hillside of grass and a long line of dead deer, compressed into one body. A big one can put away up to 20 pounds of meat in a sitting, and it has to keep finding that for a decade. Predators are expensive to build, so the world cannot afford many of them. For every lion out there, hundreds of animals that eat plants. 2 hunters leave camp. One walks toward a herd that eats grass and runs away. The other walks toward the animal that eats meat and runs toward him. Only one of them has children. But that explains how rarely you meet a predator, not one already lying dead in front of you. So pick up a piece of lion. Dark, dry, stringy. A predator is an athlete that misses most of its hunts. It carries almost no fat because fat is what happens to an animal that eats on schedule. Now pick up a deer in autumn. Fat along the back, fat around the guts, fat packed inside the bones. Ancient hunters were not hunting protein, they were hunting fat. And this is where a preference turns into a body count. Live on nothing but lean meat and you will die. Not the way you are picturing it. You can eat until your stomach aches every day and get weaker doing it. Hunters had a name for this, rabbit starvation. It starts with a headache and a hunger that never closes. Then diarrhea that will not stop. Then weakness that does not lift. And the whole time you are chewing, there is a ceiling on how much pure protein a body can handle in a day, and lean meat sails past it. Fat is what carries you over that line. Picture the worst buffet ever built. Unlimited skinless chicken breast, no oil, no butter, no bread, and a room full of people slowly starving in their seats, eating all day and getting thinner. I have never managed to picture what that actually feels like from the inside. The leanest animal on the landscape made the worst possible meal, and that animal was the predator. Fat is also where an animal stores everything it has ever absorbed. Every explanation online lands in the same place. Toxins enter at the bottom of the chain and concentrate at every step up. Little fish, bigger fish, shark. It is why you watch the tuna and not the sardines. All true. All modern. Mercury from coal smoke is not an ice age problem. Before I went digging, I would have told you this whole thing was a Mercury story. That was wrong, and it was wrong by about 40,000 years. With one exception. Something does concentrate inside a predator with no factory involved anywhere. And it is not in the muscle. Something else was eating, by the way. Hyenas and humans wanted the same things for a very long time. The same dry cave floor, the same shelter out of the wind, the same carcass. Look at the floor of a European cave and you can read who was winning. A layer of human hearths and stone tools. Above it, gnawed bone and hyena droppings. Then human again. The same cave changing hands for tens of thousands of years. Dig out a den and you get everything they ever dragged home. Horse, deer, and sometimes in among them, pieces of people. Chewed. Cracked open the same way everything else in the pile was cracked open. A hyena jaw can break a leg bone the width of your arm. It is a mouth built to eat the part of dinner that everyone else throws away. The theft went both ways. A pack brings down a horse and a line of men walks up and takes it. So this was never a menu question. It was a border dispute argued over the same cave and the same dead horse for thousands of generations. You would think that revenge would taste fine. It did not, and the reason is smaller than a hyena. There is a parasite called trichinella, and its whole business model depends on one animal eating another. It coils up inside muscle tissue and waits to be chewed, which means it lives where the eating happens. Inside the meat eaters. Bear is the most documented source of it on the planet. Undercooked bear. And weeks later, the larvae are out of the gut and burrowing into muscle. Face swelling, fever. Pain people describe as being beaten with a bat. In bad cases, it kills. There was a modern outbreak traced to cougar jerky. Somebody dried the meat instead of cooking it, and drying does nothing to a worm. which is the weakness of the parasite explanation. It has a solution. The solution is fire, and we had fire for most of this story. But fire has a limit, and a predator has one part that walks straight past it: the liver. A polar bear spends its life eating seals. The seals spent theirs eating fish. Vitamin A rides all the way up that chain and parks in the bear, building for years with nothing to clear it out. One meal of that liver can put a grown man on the floor. It begins with a headache behind the eyes and a drowsiness you cannot argue with. Then vomiting. Then the skin starts to go, not flaking, sheets. It lifts around the mouth and the eyes and comes away in pieces, and in the worst cases, it takes the hair with it. Put a finger on the skin just under your eye. That is the first part to leave. Cooking changes nothing. You cannot burn a vitamin out of an organ. Boil it all day and it will still take you apart. Arctic hunters knew this without knowing why. That liver goes in a hole or in the sea, and it never goes to the dogs, because it kills them too. Somebody ate it first. That is how every rule up there got written, and I would like a word with whoever volunteered to go second. Concentration up the food chain with no factory in sight. And it sits in the fattest organ in the body. The one part of any other animal a starving hunter would fight you for. Now go back to the cave lion. He cut around every claw for a reason. Skin an animal that way, and the claws stay in the hide. He was not butchering dinner. He was making an object. Think about the order of that. Kill the largest predator on the continent. Then sit down beside it with your hands inside it, working a stone edge around 10 separate claws while the light goes. That is days of labor for 0 calories. Somebody in the Ice Age walked around wearing a lion, paws and claws still attached and swinging as he moved. There is only one way to end up dressed like that. Give me that choice in that cave, and I take the meat. Every time. Which is probably why he is in the museum and I am not. Look at how predators show up in the ground. Teeth drilled through and strung on a cord. Wolf jaws laid in graves. The bone heaps at ancient camps are overwhelmingly animals that ate plants. A lion pelt was not food. It was a watch you cannot buy, worn by a man who wanted the whole valley to know what he did to get it. Risk, calories, worms, a liver that peels you. The predator was worth far more on your back than in your stomach, which is a clean, sensible answer. It also fails completely to explain the thing your face just did. Nobody sat you down and taught you that face. Psychologist Paul Rosen spent a career on disgust. Meat from meat eaters lands in its own category in the human head. The reaction settles in somewhere in childhood without anyone explaining the food chain to you. And it turns up in cultures that never met. Underneath it sits a very old idea: you become what you eat. Feed a boy the heart of a brave animal, and he takes on the courage. Feed him a predator, and he takes on the predator. And everything the predator swallowed on the way here. That is not science. It is also, in the crudest possible way, correct. The metals, the worms, the vitamin, the whole load of every animal underneath, it really is all in there. Look at the plate again. Cow on the left, hyena on the right. Both dead, both fresh, both free, and one of them is still green. Nobody told you to see that. 100,000 years of people who got it wrong told you to see that. Thanks for watching. All the sources and studies used in this video can be found in the description below.